From the Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip, it's the Billiard Congress of America 2017 Hall of Fame Gala.
Welcome to the center of the pool universe. This is the 2017 Billiard Congress of America Hall of Fame 50 Gala at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. But look at this in front of me. This is amazing, isn't it? "128 world titles, and that's just Siegel. If you don't think this is royalty, we've got a king, we've got a queen, we've got a duchess, we've got a Kaiser, we've got a captain, and we've got a colonel. We love having these great Hall of Famers here for this celebration of 50 years of the Hall of Fame, even though this is the 51st year. But the real reason we're here tonight is for the induction of our 2017 inductees, Tom Rossman and Darren Appleton. Tom Rossman has been Pool's Energizer Bunny for, I don't know, someone took one of those keys and wound it up in his back about 40 years ago. And he's been running around the world playing in tournaments, setting up tournaments, promoting, teaching, getting trick shots to be an accepted discipline. He's done a great job. Tom Rossman. The BCA Hall of Fame was founded in 1966. And it's a very small group of people when you compare it to other sports Hall of Fames. It's really difficult to get into the BCA Hall of Fame, and it's had a very rich 50-year history. To introduce Tom Rossman, I'd like to introduce a longtime friend, the owner of the Billiard Archive, Michael Seamus.
Well, it's a great honor for me to be here tonight. I've been involved with Hall of Fame voting for 25 years, since 1992. That's half the time that the Hall of Fame has been in existence. So I know, as well as many people, the greatness of the people that were sitting here on the dais. And for me to even stand with them is an unbelievable honor. Except for Mike Siegel and Gene Belucas, I've been involved in the selection and voting of everybody else who's in the Hall of Fame since then, and I'm still a Hall of Fame voter. With respect to pool, it all began for me a little over 50 years ago, and I'm holding up here, you can't see it, but this is the 1967 edition of the BCA rule book. I went to the college bookstore and I looked at it, and the price on it was $1.25. This actually is the one that I bought 50 years ago. And it was too expensive for me to purchase. So I went to the bookstore every day, and I read a little more of the rule book. And even though the Hall of Fame existed, it didn't mention it at the time, but it was filled with pictures of great players. So here, for example, is Luther Lassiter, and Charlie Peterson, and Willie Hoppe, and all these guys were in there. And at the end, there's a list of what their records were and which championships they won and all of that. And so I became completely fascinated by the fact that there was this immense history to the game. And there were really, really great players that I never saw when I was in college. So I started to sneak away to New York City. And I went to the BRPAA tournaments, which were held in the 1960s in various hotels in Manhattan. And there are actually several people sitting here whom I saw play during that time, and there are many great Hall of Famers now deceased that I also saw. So, as I say, it's really a fantastic honor for me to be standing with you. Okay, enough about me. So Tom Rossman is a man who needs no introduction. Everybody knows Tom Rossman. However, he does need an explanation. And the reason for that is that he's had an incredibly unusual life, And you might wonder what events occurred that would cause him to do the things that he did that would eventually bring him up to the dais tonight. And so I'll tell you some of those things. Tom and I have been friends for 30 years. He's played many times at my carom table in the basement of my house, as several other Hall of Famers have. He was born 68 years ago in Streator, Illinois. Streator, Illinois is a small town. It's about halfway between Peoria and Chicago. He grew up on a farm, but he moved to a town called Minonk to go to grade school. And in Minonk is where it all began. There was a very small pool room there called Elsie's. Elsie's had 3 8-foot tables. And Elsie Eden ran the place like a church. There was no alcohol, there was no swearing, and there was no gambling. And Tom got into it so much that he became a rack boy at that establishment. And becoming a rack boy or a billiard marker was a time-honored way of getting into the billiard profession. Many great players, including Michael Phelan, the father of American billiards, started as a billiard marker in his uncle's billiard room. And so Tom was impressed with the mood of the place, and eventually, through spending possibly too much time there, he became one of the top 3 players in Minonk. And he developed the moniker of the punk from Minonk. Now, I got to tell you, Tom, that is not a really fearsome road handle. So if I were set up to play against the punk from Minonk, I would figure that I might win that one. Eventually, he went to Eastern Illinois University, which is in Charleston, Illinois, somewhat south of Champaign. There, the Student Center had 10 tables. And one was a 9-footer with reversible rails. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but you could release the rail, and on one side it had cutouts for the pockets, and the other side it was a perfectly straight rail. And so you could convert a carom table into a pool table, and vice versa. Now, it was inconvenient to do this, so they only did it every 6 months. They kept the table as a carom table for 6 months and a pool table for 6 months. But that gave Tom the chance to practice both 3-cushion billiards and pool. And he became skilled at both of those, and fortunately the Student Center also had a bowling alley, so he became a skilled bowler and ultimately rolled a 300 game. He had a great friend in college named Dave Edwards. Dave Edwards had a house in town. Tom was invited there one day, and Dave Edwards' father showed him a trick shot. It was what's now referred to as the rosebud shot. There's a cluster of 7 balls, 6 around the periphery, and there's the 8 ball in the middle. And it's set up so that depending on where you shoot the cue ball from, you can sink the 8 ball in any one of 4 different pockets. And Tom saw this shot, and that was it. He was completely hooked on trick shots. After college, he went to work for Brunswick at a billiard mart in the south side of Chicago. He was selling tables. And one day, an old couple came in. And I think possibly Tom didn't think they were a terrific prospect to sell a table to. So he set up a trick shot that the customer could make. And in fact, he handed a cue to the man, and the guy made the shot. And that was it. The table was sold. And so what Tom realized is that fun can sell pool. Fun can sell pool tables. Trick shots are fun. So I'm standing here among many professionals. I know you take your competition very seriously. I know you enjoy it, but you don't regard it necessarily as fun. But you have to understand that the millions and millions of people who buy pool tables and who buy pool supplies want to have fun. And so from then on, Tom's entire approach to the game has been all about fun. Okay? Now, there's a lot more to Tom's life. In 1999, whoops, got to keep things straight. So what he would do is, in order to sell tables, he would show people a trick shot or two, prove to them that they could make the trick shot, otherwise there's really no point. I mean, if they get the table and equipment home, they can't make it, it's not really fun for them. And so they loved it. He sold a lot of tables, and he eventually became a manager of 2 stores for Brunswick. With his experience in trick shots, he began giving his own exhibitions in 1974, which is quite a while ago. After Brunswick, he set up his own business called the World of Leisure, which was a table dealership in Decatur, Illinois. Ran that for 5 years. Then, for another 5 years, he ran a room called the Diamond Q. And one of the patrons at the Diamond Q was Marty, who now is his wife. Even though she was a patron and came into the room, they never actually spoke to one another, but they saw each other from afar, much like I and my own wife. And so in 1982, Tom won the McDermott Masters trick shot competition. He was good enough at that point to do it. He was giving many exhibitions. In 1985, he was giving a show at Fort Benjamin Harrison in Indianapolis, Indiana, where by a total fantastic lucky coincidence, Marty happened to be working in the recreation room at Fort Benjamin Harrison. They saw each other, and they actually spoke for the first time. They were married a year later in 1986, and if you know this couple, then you know that she is his rock and his salvation. And my wife Julie is my rock and my salvation, and she's sitting next to Cindy Byrne over there, and she was Bob Byrne's rock and his salvation. In 1987, after they were married, they decided to go on the road full-time giving performances. Marty made the bookings, Tom did the shows, mostly at colleges, in the spirit of Hall of Famer Charlie Peterson and others who really promoted the game through getting college kids interested in it. I was a college kid. Moscone came and gave an exhibition at my school. And so Tom and Marty crisscrossed the United States in the same manner. So the way Tom describes it is that because Marty drove, and this was all by road, Marty drove and she made the bookings, he referred to her as wheel and deal. And he gave the shows and he explained how the shots worked, so he called himself show and tell. So wheel and deal and show and tell went on the road. And over the years together, they have given more than 5,000 shows. Now, you know that Tom's style is unique. It's very energetic, it's fast-paced, it's a lot of fun, and one of his great capabilities is knowing what to say when you miss a shot. Because in live trick shot performances, they don't all go. And he knows exactly how to keep the crowd interested in what's happening. However, all of that's not actually the reason that we're here tonight. The reason we're here tonight is what Tom has done for trick shot competition. In 1993, he made a pitch to the BCA to have them sponsor an amateur trick shot competition. Okay, that fell flat. In 1995, Bob Jewett and I and Tom hired Hans de Jager. Hans de Jager was the European artistic carom champion at the time. We brought him over to Miami for a week of instruction on how to make all the shots in the 68-shot European artistic program. And that was a change of life for Tom, because he was able to develop technique that he then borrowed into pool, which had not been done before based on the carom competition. He then made a successful proposal to the Valley National 8-Ball Association, which began running amateur artistic pool events. In 1999, he was approached by Jürgen Sandmann and asked to set up a professional trick shot competition for the WCBS. He developed a program that involved 8 different disciplines of artistic pool, which resulted in the first world tournament ever at artistic pool, right here in Las Vegas in the year 2000. Hall of Famer Mike Massey was the winner, and future about to be Hall of Famer Tom Rossman came in second in that competition. The idea for ESPN's Trick Shot Magic is often credited to Tom, but he insists that it was not him, that it was first proposed by Matt Braun and Paul Gurney in the year 2000. The first competition was held in 2002, which Tom won, and later became an advisor to the show. That's the reason I think he's kind of indelibly associated with ESPN Trick Shot Magic. Behind the scenes, he's worked to perfect a competitive program that continues to be interesting. In European artistic competition, there's a set shot program. Everybody plays the same shots all the time. one of Tom's innovations was to change things around so that players themselves could propose a shot to their opponent, and the opponent could propose a shot to themselves. Finally, in 2006, he won the coveted world trick shot title, which Mike Massey had won first. And over the years, he's managed to spread the fun of pool to people in at least 35 countries, and he just told me he's been invited to 16 more countries. And many times doing 250 shows a year, bringing a smile, laughter, often of the cackling variety, to everybody who sees him perform. He now has a repertoire of over 1,000 shots, and 30 times he has made a clean sweep of trick shot competition, meaning he won not just the competition, but each of the 8 divisions in the competition. Folks, I give you a well-deserving Tom Rossman.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. I've only got a few minutes, so we'll keep it down a little, okay? My normal presentation is about 3 hours, and it runs into the night. So, but first of all, I want to thank God for this special night and honor gift. Without him, I wouldn't be doing any of this. I want to thank the BCA. Rob, thank you, everybody. Mike Pinoso, the Hall of Fame Committee, and the United States Billiard Media Association for any and all functions associated with the selection, voting, induction process, and this breathtaking ceremony presentation. I am so grateful for this overwhelming support by so many in the billiard industry, plus an extended family of close friends, fans, and acquaintances. One person in particular I want to mention is probably maybe the oldest one here. A friend of mine came up from Houston, Texas. His name is Reeves Smith. He's going to be 90 years old very soon, over table number 2. And thank you, Reeves, for coming. Just to give you an example of what Reeves has been exposed to in his life, he played UJ Puckett at the age of 36 years of age. So it gives you an idea of how Reeves has had quite an experience in pool. Also, a special recognition to Darren Appleton. Thanks, Darren. It's a pleasure to be fellow inductee. Thank you, Darren. Many have entered the prestigious doors of the BCA Hall of Fame as player and meritorious inductees up until this 50th anniversary. And it's wonderful to see them here. I've worked with 75% of all the people on this dais. We've had many special times together, presentations, promotions, plus many personal attachments on and off the table. A special thanks to all of you here on the podium. This has been a journey with each one of you that I'll never forget in my whole life. You all made balls and I all missed a bunch. But it seemed to still work pretty good together. So whenever there was a special promotion, I was the one that worked with them, but I was the one doing the jokes and missing the shots. I do want to mention a special mention to 5 Hall of Fame members no longer with us that I worked with. Lou Butera, who was a very good friend of mine. We worked in many functions together with Brunswick. Robert Byrne, I worked with in 3 Cushion and many other things. Jimmy Karras, who did a grand opening at my pool room. He was one of my trusted friends. Larry Hubbard, who worked with the APA, and Steve Meserak, who I worked with in many capacities as well. I'll never forget the memories shared with each of them and the joy they brought to my life. I especially want to thank my wife, Marty, better known as Miss Q. Now, let me clarify what Miss Q is, okay? There are 4 types of basic gender-related Qs. There's the Miss Q, M-I-S-S Q, that's the unmarried Q. There's the Mrs. Q, which is the married Q. There is the Miss Q, which is the one none of us want to do on the pool table. And then there's Ms. Q, which is M-S-C-U-E. So Ms. Q is my wife, and thank you, Money. And as Michael mentioned, Marty has been the wheel and deal of the program, and I've been the show and tell. And without the wheel and deal, you don't have a show and tell. It's as simple as that. So to me, she is basically the one who holds an equal share of this Hall of Fame recognition and resides in the Hall of Fame of my heart. So thank you, honey, for all you've done for me to make this journey possible. Thank you, honey. I am truly humbled and honored to be standing here before you tonight. Mike Bonozo told me that I had 10 to 12 minutes. I don't think so, Mike. So I normally don't write stuff down. My podium is normally a pool table, so I'm a little out of my element here, okay? And I talk pretty much off the cuff, but I wrote a bunch of stuff down, so I'm going to go ahead and get through it. As I mentioned, a normal show is 3 hours. I have a tendency to make short stories longer, and I have a tendency to tell you how to build a clock if you ask me what time it is. So it's a little different. So if I talk a little too fast from here on out, I want you to listen quicker, okay? Just listen a little bit quicker, and you'll get everything I said. I tried to write this speech, Mike, many times, but for one reason or another, I was unable to see any unity or meaning to the words I wrote. I prayed for the right words, and about a week ago, after I got back from the Middle East, they were revealed to me in my spirit one morning after I woke up. I'm reminded of a joke. There were two people, a couple, that were having a hard time remembering everything, so the doctor told them to write everything down. So, they're at home one night, and the husband gets up and goes to the kitchen to get some ice cream. And the wife says, "Bring me some ice cream." He said, "Make sure you write it down." "No, I can remember ice cream." And he says, "And put some chocolate syrup on it." "Write it down or you'll forget it." "No, I can remember that. Ice cream and chocolate syrup and a cherry on top." And he never wrote it down. So about 20 minutes goes by, and he comes back in with a platter of bacon and eggs. And she says, "Where's the toast?" So anyway, I thought that was kind of, so I decided I didn't want to bring up a platter of bacon and eggs and toast tonight, so I wrote it down. I wrote down everything I was going to say, and that's unusual because I normally don't write stuff down. And you might call that what I'm telling you now is a story behind the story that Mike covered. Thank you, Mike, for that wonderful introduction. In addition, I recently participated in a memorial tournament for my best friend of 38 years that Michael mentioned, Dave Edwards. He died of brain cancer 10 years ago. 38 years I knew him, and I went to his memorial event this past weekend, and on the wall there was a bicycle made out of yarn, and above the bicycle there was a set of handlebars off a bicycle, and then there was also a basket hanging off, and had pool balls in the basket. And underneath this basket, it said, "Find the joy in the journey." Now, I actually believe that joy has a way of finding us. Instead of us finding the joy, it finds us. And it's around all of us right now tonight. This is no accident. So when word of my induction was released, many people said it was about time or it should have happened before. I don't think that's the case. I think the timing is just right. In the bigger picture of things, 50th anniversary, what a unique honor that is, with the living Hall of Famers and the entire industry participating. It's just amazing. Years ago, Michael Shamus, Robert Byrne, and I were on a TV filming in Pittsburgh for a show called This Week in Pocket Billiards. And Michael would always do a segment on the history, and he would say, "Welcome to another moment in billiard history." Well, tonight is truly a special moment in billiard history. I'm convinced that the timing of this moment is perfect for each of us to enjoy, to share, and to hear special messages from many speakers. One other observation that I made about the timing, and I'm going to share this from my heart. 33 years ago to date, I had a vision called the Rack Vision. So it's 33 years ago I had this vision about the industry. In this industry, it was a prophetic image of the entire industry coming together for a time such as this. And tonight we have the entire industry basically coming together here. Now I relate this to 2,000 years ago, when there was a person who walked on earth, his name was Jesus. And he revealed a source of victory for bringing everyone together also 33 years ago. So I don't think this is an accident that we're all here. I think there's a bigger connection than just us being in this room right now. Now, I want you just to kind of mull over about 4 quick things here while you're listening to this. First, do what makes you happy. Make a decision tonight to be here. That was your decision, so you're pretty happy. I noticed everybody's happy tonight. Joy is another thing, but you're all happy because of the circumstance of being here. Be with those that make you smile. Just look at the person next to you. Everybody's got a smile on their face in this room. That's what it's about. Go ahead, try it. It doesn't hurt. It takes less muscles to smile than it does to frown. Everybody's smiling. Laugh as much as you breathe. Now, I got to tell you something about my dad. My dad was 100 years old when he passed away. 100 years old plus 7 months. The last 30 years of my life, when I was traveling on the road, my dad, I'd be on the phone with him, and he would just start laughing on the phone. And I said, Dad, what are you laughing at? He said, nothing in particular. I just thought I'd laugh. I laugh when nothing's funny. And I think if more, did you hear that? She laughed. I didn't say anything funny, but they laughed, see? So it's very important that if I tell a joke tonight and it's not funny, just laugh anyway, all right? Just laugh anyway. Yeah, they got that joke. That's good. And then one last thing, the greatest thing in life is to love as long as you live. If you love this game, there's 3 things I found out about this game. Winning is great. Everybody wants to win. But playing is greater because some people can't play. But the greatest thing of all is loving this game. If you love this game, you can win or lose and still be a champion. Never forget that. That's been my life in this game. Each of you has brought great joy to so many people. The joy in my heart is just one example of a life you have touched. Everybody here in this room has touched you. I once read a book called Halftime that said that we all have special equippings in the first part of our life. So think about that. Then we should ask ourselves halfway through the journey, what are we going to do with those equippings? Are we just going to kind of sit on them for a while, or are we going to do something with them? I learned that it is never too late to follow a dream, a vision, or a goal in life, and never to give up. I'm reminded of Jimmy V's philosophy of life. You all know Jimmy V's philosophy of life, not to give up. I'm also reminded of Winston Churchill after World War II. He did a commentary at Oxford University. He took his top hat off, he took his cigar out, he put his cane against the podium, and he said, never give up, never give up, never give up. He put his hat on, his cigar in his mouth, took his cane, and walked off the stage. It was the greatest oratory ever given at any university in the history of the world. So remember that. Never give up, no matter what you're pursuing. A lot of people here pursuing dreams, don't ever give up your dream. I've had my dream has been fulfilled because I never gave up. I also realized that the equippings of life, that with these equippings, a person can be an ambassador of our beautiful gift of billiards, whatever the form, playing, all the players, performing, promoting, media specialties, manufacturing, retail, wholesale distribution, service, instruction, judging, writing, social networking, and much more. Many of you have inspired me as ambassadors in your respective positions and our roles within the billiard industry, and I want to thank you for being my inspiration. For some time now, I have felt like a turtle on top of a fence post. Now, I don't know how many of you know about turtles, but a turtle can't get to the top of a fence post unless they've got help. So I live on a little farm, or not a farm, but a country out in Indiana. We got fence posts, and I've never seen a turtle on top of that fence post. But tonight, I feel like a turtle on top of a fence post. And it sounds funny, but you can't get to the top of a fence post without help. It's impossible. A turtle can't climb a fence post, in case you didn't know that. And I've watched them, and they just struggle, and they claw up to stuff, they can't get there. So I believe that when that turtle tries to get to the top of the fence post, that they are enjoying the journey, whoever helps them get there. So everybody here enjoys their journey. There are so many of you that have helped me get to the top of the current fence post, which is the HOF induction ceremony. If you only knew how much each of you has been a part of that. Even if I do not know you right now in this room, I hope we meet and get to know each other better than during and after this event. We are all in this together tonight in an amazing way, and I believe it is not by accident. I believe everybody was supposed to be here tonight for this reason, to hear a special message from everybody. I look at fence posts as guideposts of life. In my life, I've had some major guideposts that have equipped me along the way, and I believe God has placed directly in my path to direct my steps along the way. I'm going to share just a couple short things here because my time's drawing nigher. Michael Seamus already mentioned LCs. My dad took me to the LCs. I worked as a rack boy. It became my foundation for life. There was, as Michael mentioned, no cursing, fighting, gambling. And all I enjoyed was the sight and sounds of the game, the sight and the fellowship of the players. That's what I enjoyed. And that was what it was to me the whole time. Even today, that's all it is. It's the sight and sound and the ball and the sound. That became my first love of the game. My first love. I went to college. I got exposed to the other side of the game. I got exposed to higher level competition. I got exposed to gambling. And then I went to work for Brunswick in Chicago. And one night I was playing in a big challenge match, a bank pool game. And I thought I was a pretty good bank pool player. And that night I lost quite a bit of money on the south side of Chicago. And it broke my heart and my wallet. Now I could handle the money because I had a good job. But my heart got broken that night because I lost that money. There was something in my heart that got broken. So the first thing that flashed into my brain was LCs. See, I had fallen away from LCs when I went to college. So in that foundation of LCs, I found my joy and my strength again. And I've maintained that now for 40 years. And I always think about LCs. Went into retail sales, had a pool room, and then eventually I got involved in the pro arena. I wanted to be a professional 9-ball player, just like most of these players here. But I found my place on the team as a professional artistic pool player. I became Dr. Q. I went from Punk from Anunk to Toad to Hoppy Toad to Dr. Q. Played in professional events, ESPN, WPA, as an entertainer, promoter, teacher, and other diversities. I wanted to be a medical doctor, an MD, I told my grandmother. But instead I became a BD, a doctor of billiardology. Now, for those that don't know what billiardology is, that's the study of spheres or pool balls, projectiles, cue sticks, and planes, tables. So I became a doctor of billiardology. But I discovered something about being a doctor. You have to have two types of patients. You have to have students, juniors, amateurs, professionals, but you also have to have patients to deal with the patients. So I've had two types of patients in my life. But right now in the present day mode I'm in, I have a present focus on something completely different. You see, the vision I had in 1984 was about having rack rooms all over the world. A rack room is something that it changes people's perception of the game via the visions of the positive side of the game, is to engage in a universal and bonded effect, to use the gifts and talents of each part to make the whole better. And finally, in 2010, I got away from the billiard industry a little bit to make myself available for outreach ministry with Gospel Trick Shop Ministries. And it changed my life forever. This was just part of the equipping being in the industry. 2010, I went to Egypt to do an outreach. I went to the jungles of Honduras, doing pool rooms in the jungles of Honduras, sharing the good news. It was awesome. China, the Philippines twice, Canada, and most recently, just a week and a half ago, we got back, Steve and I, from the Middle East. 4 countries, war-torn countries, sharing the good news, and people's lives were touched, including my own. It was tremendous. We shared the joy of our heart with others, anyone that might listen. We tried to build bridges, and then we created a network of BFFs. Now, those in social media know what BFF is, but we called it Billiard Friends Forever. So we're all billiard friends forever, everybody in this room. And finally, I learned 3 principles in my life I want to share with you. First, I haven't missed a ball in 30 years. Now, I know that sounds weird, but I haven't missed a ball. Now, here's the reason. My mom used to do jigsaw puzzles. She sealed them with puzzle glue. And Dad he was a carpenter, so he took oak frames and put them around the jigsaw puzzle. We put them on the walls at home. So when I miss a shot, you see me miss a shot. And everybody says, oh, Dr. Q is struggling, he missed a shot. But see, I'm not missing a shot. That's what you see because your brain's kicking in. I see a new shot that was created by actually leaving it on the table. Or if it goes off, like a cue ball goes on the floor on the break, I see a new shot. Wherever it stops on the floor is a new shot. So I have never missed in 30 years because if I miss or make it or leave it on the floor, it's just a new shot. You can't miss. It's impossible. It's all how you look at it. It's perception. Now, by the way, about perception, you all understand what side of the road they drive on in England, correct? What side do they drive on? Well, they think it's the road. See, that's analytical. They think it's the left side of the road. The reason they drive on the left side of the road is because it's the right thing to do, correct? Now the big question, why do we drive on the right side of the road? Because it's all that's left. Think about it. The point is, that's my worst joke. But the point is, they think they're right. They think we're wrong. We think we're right, and we think they're wrong. We're both right, and we're both wrong. Which means that if the top 10 pros use a different tip, each one of them, 9 of them must be wrong, which makes no sense. So we can't argue over those type of things, you see. And the Harlem Globetrotters, I'm a table trotter. I'm like a Harlem Globetrotter, if you didn't know that. The Globetrotters get paid for missing baskets, and they keep bringing them back for more. That's what happened. I missed balls, I told jokes, and they hired me to come back. Totally the contrary to what everybody does in pool. But that's what happened, and that's why I guess I'm standing here tonight. So it's been and is at present all about the joy of the role. Secondly, I haven't lost a game in 30 years. Now that's amazing. If I lose on paper, I win in my heart, which at the least, by human perception, is a tie. However, I personally have discovered that the victory in my heart trumps all paper scores. So I can't lose. In 30 years, I haven't lost a game. It's an amazing way to play the game. And finally, there's 2 things I want to remember, and this is only the 4th time I said finally, but I'm getting there, okay? ESPN Trick Shot Magic, I was concerned in the early days when I used to jump up in the air and yell hot dog. I was concerned it was unsportsmanlike conduct. So I went to Matt Braun. I said, Matt, do you care if I jump up in the air and yell hot dog? Because I don't want to be unsportsmanlike here. He says, well, we have a small problem. I said, what's that? And he says, can you jump higher? Matt Braun wanted me to jump higher. See, we don't jump high enough in our game. You have fun in this game and you have serious stuff in your game. But in my perspective, you should jump higher because there's a lot up above us we don't see sometimes. And you all know Conrad Berkman. Conrad Berkman, in the Billiard News years ago, I was in Las Vegas doing a junior tournament. And Conrad Berkman, after I did a show, says, come here. And he says, there ought to be a law against anybody having that much fun at this game. The next year, he said the same thing, come here. There ought to be a law against anybody having this fun in this game. The 3rd year, he was going to tell me that, and I said, listen, Conrad, there ought to be a law against anybody not having this much fun at this game. And that's my philosophy. Everybody should have as much fun as they can. In fact, I discovered that fun is a direct descendant of joy. It's interesting, isn't it? 4 verses to leave you with. 4 life verses I live by. I'll leave you with this. I was flying at 39,000 feet one time, and there was a Time magazine with an earmark on it. And it said the following: success is finding your calling and passion in life, regardless of financial gain. If you follow your calling and passion in life, usually the financial gain follows you. But if you go the other way around, you'll never really find your calling and passion. The next two things are found in the Bible, and I'm going to mention them. Psalm 33:3 is one I live by. Play skillfully with a shout of joy. And Hebrews 11:6, he is a rewarder of them who diligently seek him. It's been a wonderful journey. And the final model that I discovered in developing the guideposts of my life, rack up a victory in your game in life, in your game, but more importantly in life. That's the most important. You get your life first in victory, the game follows suit. If we put the game before life, it doesn't work. That's the most important thing, is let the life and let the joy come through you. So, may each of you experience the same love, joy, and peace in your life's journey that I have found in mine. Now, in the morning, and I'm just going to mention this, Steve Lillis, Gospel Church Shop Ministries, we're having a special fellowship for the next 3 days in room 12113, elevator 4B at 9 o'clock. If anybody wants to join us, come up for fellowship. Once again, thanks to everyone for this special moment in billiard history and for giving me a heartfelt memory for life. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Got it. Thanks, Chance. Thank you, buddy.
You guys shake hands. You guys shake
Thank
hands.
you very much, man. Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks. Thanks very much.
Look at JP right here.
Okay. Hi, JP.
On behalf of the BCA and the USBMA, it's been a great night. Thank you again all for coming.